This story is insane. This story is seriously insane. A progressive California lawmaker has effectively shut down freelance journalism in California. Now, it's complicated. They didn't pass a law outright saying you can't do it. They put a restriction on how many articles someone can write as a freelancer. Get this. If you live in California, you can't write more than 35 articles. But seriously, writing an article is not a ton of work for the most part. When you commission a freelancer and say, hey, we heard about it, Hillary Clinton and Tulsi Gabbard, dig it up, 400 or 500 words, and we'll pay you X. You can get that done in a couple hours, okay? And so freelancers do multiple articles per day. I know people who do 5 or 6 per day. That means you can work for 1 week before you're cut off. You know what's crazy? While these Democrats and leftists were screeching about Trump's attack on the press, this bill was circulating for longer than a year. So let me make this clear for all of you. Companies like Vice, with headquarters in New York, companies in big cities, don't need to hire local freelancers. If I own a company in California, I can hire a freelancer in New York. So what's happening now is people who live in LA, these writers, they're freaking out. Check this out, Hollywood Reporter. Everybody is freaking out. Freelance writers scramble to make sense of new California law. Well, maybe if you were paying attention to what was going on around you, especially in local politics, this wouldn't have happened. But this marks an amazing strike down of California-based journalism. And this is an apocalyptic scenario. I'm not exaggerating, okay? There are tens of millions of people living in California, and there are probably thousands of writers who do freelance articles for various companies across the country. And now they're going to say, I'm not going to work with California writers. I'll just hire someone from New York. Check this story. This is nuts. Check Yashir Ali, who is a journalist. He's considered, a fair individual. He's relatively on the left, but he's got a lot of respect across the board. California Assemblywoman Lorena S. Gonzalez has launched a direct attack on press freedoms with her bill. I'd say she should be ashamed of herself. But knowing her, shame is not a sensation she's familiar with. This is the Democrats. This is progressive. Let's read. A new bill that caps freelance submissions may make writing financially unsustainable for many workers, even though the legislator behind the law insists the goal is to create new good jobs and a livable, sustainable wage job. No. You have just basically terminated everybody. I can't stress how crazy this is. I've been working in media for a long time. I know how freelancing works, okay? Read this. Let's read this. California-based freelance writer Ariana Jarrett recently learned about Assembly Bill 5 and is now concerned she and her colleagues in California may soon be speaking about their jobs in the past tense. Jarrett, who contributes to relationship website yourtango.com and the Good Men Project, says freelance writing has helped support her 2 children and handle their different school schedules. Her current gigs, covering mental health, lifestyle, and entertainment, allow her to work from home, from the office, and even from her children's various appointments. They were just all of these benefits for my ability to still be an active parent in my kids' lives and also support us financially, that I just couldn't find anywhere in a steady job with anybody, she says. Jarrett is now coming to terms with how her lifestyle will change come January 1st, when AB 5, California legislation aimed directly at the gig economy that was signed into law September 18th, will go into effect. The bill, which cracks down on companies like Lyft and Uber that misclassify would-be employees as independent contractors, has been percolating through the California legislative system for nearly a year. It codifies the 2018 Dynamex decision by the state Supreme Court while carving out some exemptions for specific professions. I tell you what, for a year. It has been circling around for a year. Where were the journalists to uncover this and raise the red flag? That is the point of journalism. If you don't know about the bill, you can't stop it. Think about a bill that was way worse, that would say the Green New Deal, and not one journalist ever made a peep. And it made its way for a year through Congress and finally got passed. And then all of a sudden, everyone after the fact went, whoa, wait, we're banning gasoline? That's what happened. And these people didn't see it coming. That's why journalism is so important. And that's why it's sad. This is what it's resulted in. The exemption for freelance journalists, which some have only just learned about via their colleagues, press reports, social networks, and/or spirited arguments with the bill's author on Twitter, contains what some say is a potentially career-ending requirement for a writer to remain a freelancer. If a freelance journalist writes for a magazine, newspaper, or other entity whose central mission is to disseminate the news, the law says that journalist is capped at writing 35 submissions per year. Per year. Wow, 35 per year. Let's go back to what I said at the beginning. I know writers who do 5 or 6 articles per day, Monday through Friday with weekends off. Freelance. That means they can work 1 week. 1 week out of the year. That's wow. Putative employer. Per putative employer. At a time when paid freelance stories can be written for a low end of $25 and a high end of $1 per word, some meet that cap in a month just to make ends meet. Amy Lemaire, who writes for the money site CelebrityNetWorth.com and YourTango.com, adds, "Everyone's freaking out, like my anxiety is going through the damn roof. The law was just passed. We are beyond the point where this should have been brought up." I don't live in California, okay? I don't hire people from California for the most part because we're not there yet. You know, maybe once we're a lot bigger, we can have some Californians. Unfortunately, I gotta say, based on this law, we can't freelance. You know, for the most part, 35 articles per person? Great, that means you can write your articles, you get paid, and we'll have a nice day. In a year! Wow. Maybe if they were more concerned about local journalism and the laws being passed in California instead of the net worth of celebrities, we may have seen this coming. They say in the last few weeks, concerned freelancers who, like their contractor status, have slid into the Twitter replies of Lorena Gonzalez, the bill's author, and her chief of staff to voice their opposition. Frustrated with the response they've received so far, freelancers have organized a Facebook group to discuss tactics, cold call legislators, sought out labor and tax lawyers, and as a result of their efforts, won 2 meetings at Gonzalez's San Diego offices this month, still with a law set to go into effect on January 1st. And some employers already distancing themselves from California freelance journalists. Their efforts may be too little too late. Imagine if people started complaining, it is not fair that servers get paid less than minimum wage. I got an idea. Servers can't work more than 1 week out of the year. The idea being they'll have to hire you. And then the restaurant industry just says, no, we can't hire employees anymore, so we're shutting down. That's what we're getting. The crux of AB 5 for freelance journalists is the B requirement of the legislation's so-called ABC test to determine if a worker is an employee or independent contractor. The B test requires that a freelancer performs work that is outside the usual course of the hiring entity's business. For freelance writers who perform the same work as staff writers, just less frequently, the odds are that any argument they present as to how their roles are unique won't pass muster. And therefore, the 35 submission cap per year will apply if they want to remain an independent contractor. Work that counts as a submission can include a published individual story, a series of or coverage of a single event, Gonzalez tells the Hollywood Reporter. So let me spell this out for you. You write for, hotdogvariety.com. I just made it up. And the company says, we have no need for someone to write 5 daily articles about hot dogs because we have a staff and they write, we have 3 or 4 people on staff and we need people who are in various parts of the state to go around sampling hot dogs and provide us and pitch us these stories and we can buy them. But we have no space to hire an employee. Basically, I'll put it this way. We are full up. We can't afford any more staff, but you might have a good story we'll buy. Oh, you're a freelancer in California. Oh, I'm sorry. We can do 35 articles from you in the year, which means, in a month, you're out. There you go. The overall goal of AB 5, Gonzalez says, is to protect and preserve good jobs. We're trying to create new good jobs and a livable, sustainable wage. Yes, but if I don't need a full-time or part-time writer, I need pitches, I'm not going to hire you. I'm just going to freelance somebody in a different state. Get it? They say, freelancers typically do not enjoy employee health benefits like paid leave, sick days, healthcare, et cetera, all those things. Gonzalez, who previously worked as a labor organizer and says she spoke to dozens of freelance journalists while writing the bill and moving it through the lawmaking process, adds that freelancers can be used to break newsroom unions, like the ones formed last year at the LA Times and this year at the Ringer. As for how lawmakers settled on a 35 submission figure, Gonzalez says that she and her team decided that a weekly columnist sounded like a part-time worker and so halved that worker's yearly submissions. Okay, dude, you can write a column in literally an hour. So you sit around throughout the week, and you have a weekly column. Let's say New York Mag is like, hey, we want a piece from you, 1,000 words every week. Great. So throughout the week, you do a little bit of work, thinking about your idea, writing it down, and then you write an article. It doesn't take that long. I'm not saying it's easy work, but people I know who are staff writers will write 5 to 6 articles per day. So a freelancer who's a weekly columnist is going, like you're essentially cutting them off. Labor experts and freelancers alike are skeptical that the desired outcome of AB 5, that newsrooms will hire California-based freelancers as part-time and full-time employees, will be achieved in the short term. So here's the point I was making just a moment ago. If I only need one article from you one time per week, I'm not going to pay you for the whole week. Why would I hire someone full-time if they're a weekly columnist? That's nuts. They say it will not be. It will be. Labor experts are skeptical the desired outcome will be achieved in the short term, especially as the news media continues to face major challenges. In September, Business Insider estimated that 7,200 workers have lost their media jobs this year. You know what? This is a death knell for California's freelance journalism. You know what I mean? As they've already noted in the reporter, companies are distancing themselves from freelancers in California. Think about it. Let's say you own a business in Delaware. Are you going to go and hire a California freelancer when you know, even if they do good work, you can only take a set amount of submissions from them? They say large California-based news media brands are still figuring out the logistics of how to comply with the law. Asked how he plans to handle the implementation of AB 5 next year, San Diego Union Tribune publisher and editor-in-chief Jeff Light says, "We're in the process of sorting through the implications right now. Unfortunately, I suspect a number of freelancers will end up with less work from us as a result of the limit. I don't have anything more detailed than this at this point." Bill Nagel of the Chronicle says, "This was a poorly considered part of the law, likely based on a fundamental misunderstanding of why companies use freelancers. There are situations in which we cannot make a freelancer an employee, which inhibits our First Amendment rights as a publication. It also seems odd and problematic that broadcast freelancers are treated differently than their colleagues in print media. Unfortunately, AB 5 will limit opportunities for some freelancers and silence a number of voices in the market. We will, of course, comply with the law." So there you go. You get the point. Man, this was, my understanding is this was a Democrat. This is a progressive who did this. Somebody said, there was one comment saying, will this get the same amount of coverage as, say, if it was the other political party? And so my understanding is that Lorena Gonzalez, Assemblywoman, standing up for Californians, progressive. I don't think she's a conservative. She's very much a Democrat. That's crazy. Well, freelance writers, write about it while you still can. Stick around. I got a couple more segments coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.